Hello everyone. Welcome back to the virtual learning program prepared by Rainbow International School. This is for grade 8 boys and girls, and this is in line with the directive set by the Ministry of Education in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now, we shall be dealing with the second part of the video presentation for chapter 9, but actually this will cover the rest of the topics about internal and external communication. Now, in this part, we are expected to know the benefits and limitations of the different communication methods, and we are to recommend which communication method to use in given circumstances. We should be able to justify also how communication barriers arise, and from this lesson we're expected to learn how communication barriers can be removed. Information can be sent or transmitted in a number of different ways, and these are called the communication methods. We have the verbal methods of communication, which involve the sender of the message speaking to the receiver. We also have the written methods of communication, which include letters and notices, posters, but increasingly involve the use of information technology, better known as IT. We also have the visual methods of communication, and combined with the video as a method of communication. Visual methods include the use of diagrams, charts, and of course videos. Now, which do you think is the best way to communicate a message? Well, there's no simple answer to this question. Sometimes it's better to use verbal communication, and on the other occasions, it is essential to use written communication. Different messages require different methods of communication, so there's no best method in all cases. Now, in choosing the appropriate communication method, we have to consider several factors that the sender of a message should consider before choosing the most appropriate method to use to communicate with the receiver. We may use speed, cost, message details, leadership style, importance of feedback, importance of a written record, and the receiver. For speed, it is important that the receiver gets the information really quick. For example, a manager from a foreign division of a company must be told about a canceled meeting before he catches his flight. About cost, it is important to keep costs down, or it is also important for communication to be effective regardless of cost. For example, customers need to be informed about a serious safety problem with the product. Now, message details refer to how detailed the message is. If it contains technical plans, figures, and illustrations, then clearly written and visual forms of communication are likely to be essential or important. Leadership style, is the leadership style democratic one? If it is, then two-way verbal methods of communication with employees are much more likely to be used than they would be by an autocratic leader. About the receiver, who is the target receiver If just one person has to be communicated with and they work in the next office, then one-to-one conversation is likely to be used. But this would be inappropriate if hundreds of workers needed to receive the message. Okay, about the importance of a written record. Uh, if it is essential that a written record can be referred to at some time in the future, then clearly verbal communication would be inappropriate. For example, legal contracts or receipt of new orders from customers must have written records. And lastly, we have the importance of feedback. If it is important or essential that the sender receives feedback, perhaps very quickly, then a direct verbal method of communication might be most appropriate. For example, has the customer just leaving the shop paid for those goods yet? See? So now you will see on page 120 of your textbook a revision summary, which as we used to do, we copy it in our copybook for our self-revision. Okay, now here, let's deal with the methods uh, individually. Verbal communication methods include face-to-face or one-to-one talks or meetings between the sender and the receiver. It may also refer to telephone conversations or video conferencing where groups of people in different locations are able to see and hear each other through a video or internet link. And it may also include meetings and team briefings, which could involve few or many people. Verbal communication is also known as oral communication. Now, we have advantages of our verbal communication. You see, the information can be given out quickly, and when this happens at big meetings, it is an efficient way of communicating with a large number of people. Okay, another point is there is opportunity for immediate feedback and two-way communication. And another point is the message is often reinforced by seeing the speaker. Okay, in here the body language of the speaker, how they stand and their facial expressions can help to put the message across effectively. This of course does not apply to telephone conversations. And for the disadvantages of verbal communication, we have, like in a big meeting, there's no way of telling whether everybody is listening or has understood the message. Another disadvantage is that it can take longer to use verbal methods when feedback occurs than to use a written form of communication. And lastly, when an accurate and permanent record of the message is needed, like warning to a worker, a verbal method is inappropriate. Okay? Now, about the written communication, including those based on information technology, written methods of communication include the following. We have the business letters, which is used for either internal or external communication, and they should follow a certain set of structure. We have the memos, an abbreviation for memorandum. They are the written messages used only internally. Many businesses use computers to send these through the internal email system. Okay, and you have the example there in your textbook on page 121. Now, we have reports. Reports are detailed documents about a particular issue or problem. These are often produced by experts working in the business. They can be sent to managers to read before a meeting to discuss the issue. Very often, these reports are so detailed that they could not be understood by all employees. Okay, we also have notices pinned on boards. These are used to display information which is open to everyone, but there is no certainty that they are read. We also have the text messages. Um, Apparently, today, in this generation, mobile or cell phones are a major part of people's lives. They allow for quick and convenient communication with others. One of the most used functions of the mobile phone is not video calls, but instant text messaging or SMS. Like when organizing a business meeting at short notice, just take out your phone, type in a quick "meet me at 2 please" and press send. Uh, Text messaging or SMS is an easy and discreet way of communicating with others. Text messaging also allows the sender to communicate with others in situations where a face-to-face or phone conversation is not possible or appropriate. Also, a record exists of the communication until this is deleted. However, there's a record exists of the communication and there is no way of assessing the tone of the message or the mood of the sender, and this can cause some failures in communication. We also have their email, social networking sites, and tweeting, and also other forms of electronic communication using information technology. These have revolutionized communications in recent years. Written messages can be sent between two or more people with computing facilities. Printouts of messages can also be obtained if a hard copy is required. Intranets provide easy messaging to all workers in a business with access to a computer. The internet allows easy and effective communication with customers and suppliers. We have the advantages of written communication, and like the first point is there is hard evidence of the message which can be referred to in the future. This should help to reduce disagreements between the sender and the receiver about the contents of the message. The second point is that it is essential for certain messages involving complicated details which might be understood if, for example, a telephone call was made. Also, the law in many countries requires certain safety messages to be written and displayed in offices and factories. It is not sufficient to tell people about safety measures and they could be forgotten. The next point, the next advantage is a written message can be copied and sent to many people. This could be more efficient than telephoning all of those people to give them the message verbally. And lastly, the last advantage is that electronic communication is a quick and cheap way to reach a large number of people. We have also the disadvantages of written communication. First, we have the direct feedback, which is not always possible unless electronic communication is used. This can, however, lead to too many email messages being created and information overload, meaning people are unable to pick out the really important messages from the many that might be received. With the written messages in other forms, two-way communication is difficult. The next disadvantage is that it's not so easy to check that the message has been received and acted upon as with verbal messages. Although this can be done with email, as a please acknowledge function can be set up. Next is the language used can be difficult for some receivers to understand. Okay. If the written message is too long, it may be confusing and lose the interest of the reader. Lastly, we have here there is no opportunity for body language to be used to reinforce the message. For the last method of communication, the visual communication, we have films, videos, and Microsoft PowerPoint displays, which are often used by businesses to help train new staff or to inform sales personnel about new products. We also have posters,